Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lisa Borden and I'm your host. I'm joined by my co-host on this show and in life, Glenn Sheridan. Every episode, we're joined by a special guest who inspires us to consider not only what we think, but how we think and how that thinking impacts our life experience. It's time to get this conscious conversation started as we ask today's guest, who do you think you are? Hey everybody, I'm Lisa Borden. I am here with my co-host Glenn Sheridan, and we are here for another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? I am so excited about our guest today. I think I probably say that every single time, but I'm really excited about our guest today. One of them I know, one of them I am just meeting for the first time right now. And so let me introduce them a little bit so that we have a little bit of an idea of where it is that we're going to go today. So together, our guests are the co-creators of something called the Akira concept, and they refer to themselves as unconventional idealists. David has a passion for and dedication to functional movement, foundational wellness, and self-care, and productively rewiring the mind-body connection. He has also been teaching fitness, including indoor cycle, weight training, and yoga for over 30 years. Now, Lisa, she's the one that I know. She works daily at making healthy futures possible with drive, intuition, and connectivity. And she founded Borden Communications, a B Corp certified company way back in 1994, and excels at developing efficient strategies that create positive change and healthy outcomes for conscious people and brands. And together, and this is where the super cool part of today's conversation is going to come from, together they work to challenge the status quo of inefficient health solutions, rampant disconnect, and dangerous lifestyles. Now, I know that there is so much more to each of them. There is so much more to them collectively, including this amazing brand new book that they just co-authored, which I want to get the title right. Is it the Akira State Workbook? There it is, right there. For those of you who are seeing, for those of you who are listening, we're seeing the book. And so, yeah, the Akira State Workbook. And we're going to find out very soon where people can get their hands on a copy of this workbook, which is just so full of amazing stuff, like how to incorporate intelligent self-care routines and rituals into your life. It speaks to regeneration, not degeneration. It talks about calm and resiliency, about nourishment, how to spend money wisely, how to find wellness in ways you've never considered, and so much more. So without further ado, the way we start off every single episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Lisa Borden and David Newton, tell us, who do you think you are?
Go for it.
Well, we have a shared title that we came up with when we started working together, that we say that we are unconventional idealists, so that we believe in personal journeys and human potential. That's our thing.
Okay. David, you want to add something to that?
Nope, not really. We are very much unconventional idealists, and I guess our mandate is to challenge status quo. That's the big thing, is that we just see so many things happening in day-to-day life that are leading us in the wrong direction. And it's status quo based. And what we're doing is we're challenging that, and we're getting people to think outside of that.
It's a new way of thinking. So you ask for a long answer. If you want a long answer, we can go on for hours. But we try and be succinct. I can speak forever.
And you can really distill it down like that. I know that from having worked with Lisa a long time ago. And so, okay, so let's chunk it down then. Let's talk about idealism. Because you guys call yourselves unconventional idealists, what is idealism? Because when I look at the word, and I actually looked up a few definitions before we hopped on today, because I have referred to myself sometimes as an idealist, I looked up the word idealism, and there were so many different definitions that came up. And some of them, as I was looking at them, thinking, wait a second, this is not what I'm thinking in terms of idealism. This is not what I'm thinking of in terms of ideas or ideals. And so when you guys are talking about idealism, what are you talking about?
Well, it's a couple of things just to address that. So, in terms of definition and defining, we not only make up words and
Yeah.
terms, but we sort of take on our own, we use our own lens to
Yeah.
define things. On our website, we actually have a whole section in the book that we've called the lexicon, and we actually explain everything that we refer to in a very, very simple way so people understand the context in which we're using a term. But for unconventional idealists, one of the things we always say, we're active citizens. So we're actively pursuing meaningful goals with passion and purpose and authenticity. And that's that idealism. In that way, we have, I would say that we both have really strong opinions,
Yes.
but not ego, just strong opinions.
Yeah.
And understanding what we believe is right, but also understanding that we're learning every day as well. So what's right today, it's about being open-minded and always finding what is ideal in the moment. And the unconventional part is, you've known me for long enough that I don't really, it's as David was saying about status quo, we don't really go there. And
Yeah.
most of the time we feel like we don't fit in.
Yeah.
And it sucks sometimes feeling it's like, why am I the crazy one? Why am I the crazy one? It's not. So unconventional is a way of saying that we're really good with being weird or crazy or whatever it is that society's said we are. So we look at it as a positive spin. That's my.
Yeah. And so, okay. So, because when I think of you, Lisa, I mean, some words that come to mind, sustainability is one. Thinking outside of the box, that phrase definitely. Innovation is definitely something that comes to mind, and creativity. I mean, just creativity. Like I remember having meetings with you, and meetings with Lisa Borden, for half an hour are worth maybe a half a day workshop with someone else, because you really do just get down to the nitty gritty, the fundamentals, and your ideas are coming like this the whole time. And it's amazing. You are so in the moment, so present. And I mean, sort of just coming from my spiritual background now, it's like you're just downloading and allowing whatever is just available, those infinite potentialities that are always in play, you're just allowing them to bubble up and come up. And at some point something lands for, I mean, I'll just speak to my experience, all these things would be coming, and then one of them would land, for me, and it's like, haha, that's something that I can get behind. So to see now that, I mean, not that you're ever going to stop, you're just like evolution and ongoing creativity and expression in action. And David, I suspect that you are this too, like, since you guys are doing this together, I mean, how could you not be? And so I just, from what little I know about the Akira concept and wellness intelligence, I just love this approach to wellness on such a, like, this is holistic at a whole other level. I mean, this is comprehensive, but as a living, breathing, expanding, growing, evolving thing, which is not just passion, which is not just inspiration, but there's action. There's action, there's accountability, there is purpose, there is intention. And so this whole package that you guys are presenting is so exciting for me, and I just would love for you to talk more about whatever you want to talk about right now. Just pick one aspect, sort of start from there, so that people can hear a little bit about this amazing, exciting Akira concept and this book that you have just come out with. So who wants to
It's always he'll laugh. I just have to say one more thing after. So first of all, thank you, because that was so beautiful to actually listen to. And I've always appreciated sharing space and time with you in anything that we were doing together, whatever side of the table that I was on. But one of the things is, David and I haven't even known each other that long in the scheme of life, but all those things that you said, it was like this connection where it was like, David has that same way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And our story began because I showed up in one of his classes. And he offered such a different take on a spin class. And I didn't really like what he was doing at first, because it was actually different and unfamiliar to me. And I challenged him and he challenged me. And everything started because I wanted to actually help him package his brilliance. In the same, how I was so passionate about it. And so that's how it started. So David actually came in as a client, and we were so involved, and he was so excited that I understood him on a different level from how he approached movement, and I understood him. It just worked really well. And so it evolved from David Newton Wellness, which was mind, body, and soul, very, very heavily movement and breath based. And then my creativity, my innovation in packaging something, and it evolved into not just our life work, but that's where wellness intelligence came from. Again, making up a term to try and make something land and make sense to other people, because we don't just want to hold this for ourselves. We don't really want to. Anyway, now I'll let David speak.
Well, we were shut down in the middle of March because of COVID. We were put into lockdown. And it was from that point on that Lisa and I sat at a desk across from one another for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we just started to create. I think one of the things that we believe in is divine guidance. And we understand that we're being affected on that level. Also understanding that we live in a society where everything is highly specialized. And because it's highly specialized, the scope of our intellect and our capacity is quite narrow. So one of the things that we do at the Akira concept is we have defined it in a very, very wide sort of scope, and understanding that you're only as strong overall as the weakest part of your being. And so that's how we approach things. It's like a chain, the analogy of a chain, and that it's only as strong as its weakest link. So if you're, and I know this personally because I developed myself at a very high level on a physical level, and understanding that there's also a spiritual and a mental and an emotional side to that as well. And if those parts are underdeveloped, then they're going to cap your capacity to be physical. So what I did with Lisa was we added to those realms, we added financial and other environmental. So we added other, So it was a really interesting thing to take, I guess, a fairly wide scope of each of us independently and bring it together, and to take it to a level where I believe we've encompassed everything that you need to address in terms of wellness, as a form of wellness, I should say, and make sure that you challenge yourself to attack or to develop the weakest component of that, so that it brings the bell curve or everything up.
And our work, the amazing thing is David challenged me. You said in the introduction about regeneration instead of degeneration. So we really believe you are being one or the other in anything that you're doing at any point in time. And, David's whole approach to movement was always multidimensional, not linear. And he'd say, everything was about connection. I was like, I can't sell connection. How do we sell connection? And we really believe we figured it out. I understand it on a different level. And so David challenged me to say, it's great that you're moving. It's great that you're spinning 3 days a week, but that's all linear. That's all sagittal movement. You have to be, there has to be variety. So not only do you have to move your body in a multidimensional way, but you have to do more than one form of exercise. So he got me into doing yoga and doing weight training. And I really did feel so much stronger in my body, and stupid things, not to diminish work, but it was David explaining the core breath connection, just breath, that it actually took away my need for having massages. I thought it was sitting in my desk, like long hours at a desk and spinning, that I had some lower back pain, and just how I use my breath and my core changed everything, changed the way that I walk, changed the way that I sat at my desk, but changed how I felt in my body. And at the same time, we always tell this funny story that, you know how I am with food. So, it's all tracing back to where it came from, and the empathy that's involved in eating. So fueling yourself on a level where it's not just what you're putting in your body. It's not about calories in, calories out. It's about nurturing yourself and nourishing yourself through food, and also creating the kind of world you want with every single thing you purchase, whether it's a tomato or a t-shirt. And David would stand, and I had such respect for him, and he'd stand at the front of class, and he thought it was funny because I react. As people know, I react strongly.
Yeah, good word.
And he would drink, like he would show me he was opening a creamer, like a shelf-stable creamer, and pouring it into a crappy cup of coffee in a styrofoam cup and drinking it and laughing because I was on a bike and I couldn't.
And she was having a meltdown.
And I was like having a meltdown. And I was like, this was before we were working together, because we never worked together if he didn't get through that. And it was in, everything in the book, you talk about sustainable. It's not just sustainable, it's successful, because we're not taking anything away. David said, I'm too busy. I don't have time to do this. And I was like, of course you do. And I was just as resistant. So this is as two people were, I guess, pretty proud of where we were and what we were contributing. David's helping people, teaching 40 classes a week, and people love David's classes and coming in. And, I feel so grateful to have so many amazing clients that I've worked with for, over 25 years. And yet there was all these pieces missing. So we really helped each other, not just fill in, I helped David with kind food and understanding food. And now David can nourish himself. He went from never making a drink for himself, not cooking, nothing, to being able to shop and cook and navigate through a farmer's market and understand the magic in actually knowing your farmer and thanking your farmer and the gratitude that's involved in that, the same way that he ran his, yoga practice.
But I think the rewards as well, the reward that I've experienced from what Lisa was just explaining is this sense of well-being that I'd never experienced before. So I used to use coffee to keep myself hyped up so that I could make my way through my different classes and feel really, really big about it. And I think one of the biggest confusions that I had was the difference between fitness and health. And I was very fit, but I wasn't living a very healthy life. And that's a big confusion, I think, generally speaking, that you can be very fit and be very unhealthy simultaneously. And so that's really changed for me, because I believe that my level of fitness now, which is higher than it's ever been at 60 plus years of age, I believe that I'm more fit now than I've ever been. But it's at its foundation is a tremendous sense of health and the rewards that come from that as well.
And you feel better in your body. I feel so. Before COVID, we were actually teaching workshops. We were doing workshops, and they were full. They were great, and they were called future proofing. And
predominantly movement based. It
was a lot that I was helping David package himself and his amazing work. And so when I say we were teaching, David was at the front of the room, and he was teaching his movement based.
She was standing at the back of the room going like this,
micromanaging. And we had sponsors, and we had workbooks for people. So it had all of, my touches and David's magic. It was all there. And we were figuring out how to evolve that, because we really wanted to go into teaching people how to eat, not from a nutritionist standpoint, not bumping any guardrails and doing a dietitian's job or a nutritionist job, but actually just teaching people to, my son Ryan's line, it's, about tracing your food back to where it came from and feeling good about it. That's part of taste, is feeling good about what you eat. And so we wanted to incorporate that. And then, there's hydration, and David's training on breath, the breath connection, and how all of those things actually related to creative entrepreneurs. So all of my clients, need this. You talk about nervous system regulation and, the window of tolerance and understanding. And we went into all these amazing areas, and we
went deep actually during our studies.
Yeah, but it was even original. It was David was teaching 40 classes a week, 7 days a week. And I'm a mother of 3 and working full time. And it was like, how are we going to bring this all together? And then COVID. We actually went away. We went to a trade show at the beginning of March in California, Expo West, to do our food work. And we got there, and we landed on the Monday, and Monday at 5 p.m. Everyone was pulling out because of COVID, and they shut the conference down. So we
Wow.
found ourselves with this week. We were in California and we were supposed to be doing work this whole time. So we met with a couple of my clients, and then we met this amazing human that we had actually met on a different work travel, and we took sound bowl healing training. So we ended up doing that week. So we took this opportunity and we came back ready with our full workshops, and we were like, we're going to add all this stuff in. And then it was like, oh, you traveled in the last 14 days. So David, you can't work. You can't go anywhere. So it was like, oh, we have 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks. Imagine what the two of us together can do for 2 weeks. And here we are 9 months later. So that's how the actual workbook came to be. It's 370 pages of print, but it's all to doodle and to work in. It's as interactive as a print book could be, and there's no digital format. We really believe in taking it back to basics, and the amount of times that we edited and changed the table of contents and what was in it and the order of it. And David talks about divine guidance, and there's stuff in here that there's certain pages that took us
a couple of weeks,
2 weeks for one page, and going pretty deep and messy into one topic. And then distilling it down to something so simple, because we want this to work for people. So it's not a magic bullet, not rainbows and unicorns. It's actual, if you're ready and you do the work, it's everything. It's everything. It's not restrictive. It's just regenerative, not degenerative.
So what's really interesting about it is that we did all of this research and we developed a very strong sense of what it is that we wanted to put in the book, and then we stripped it right down so that it was incredibly simple, easily digestible, and also added a very positive slant to everything we did. So one of the things that Lisa was saying was that we don't take anything away. We never during the workbook, do we ask you to stop doing something. So what we do is we try to flood you with really good things, and if you fill up your life with really good, positive things, then it starts to edge all of the negative stuff out. So you start to let that stuff go because it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't fit. So it's not a restriction. You don't feel like you're missing out on anything. And I know this because I've experienced it with food myself. I haven't consciously had to restrict my diet at all. I've just added all of these really beautiful things through Lisa, and they've just kind of caused me not to want to have that other stuff in my diet anymore. And so for me, it's been an incredible transformation from eating unconsciously to now eating very consciously. And the rewards,
and not in that restrictive, way that I appreciate this heirloom tomato dressed directly from Jesse and Ben's farm. And then how do you eat something that has been harvested by child labor and waxed and shipped, and then it doesn't even taste good.
And I grew up on a farm, so we always had an acre lot that was for vegetables. So I grew up with roots, and I grew up with seasonal eating, and my mother was very much she prepared foods daily for us, and everything came from the garden. And so I grew up that way. And I guess as I made my way into adulthood, I kind of lost that into the whole fast food, the easy aspect of nourishing yourself and thinking.
And you didn't think it was fast food. He wasn't eating McDonald's. It was just not eating well. And that's what we talk about, that well. And if someone like David, who is so attuned and paying attention to how he felt in his body from a physical aspect, and then not just physical, but also spiritual, mental, and emotional, from even studying yoga and teaching movement and breath work. There's that missing component. We were both missing so many things. And so it's amazing to help each other fill that in. And then, when you're the teacher and you're teaching, you end up learning more than what you're teaching. And so we have this amazing connection that we are constantly, and that's the book is a result of this, constantly challenging each other and teaching each other. And by way of me teach David, it's like I'm learning the entire time. So even with food, you know, there's still so much more connection, so much more to learn when you're doing it with somebody else, and you benefit from that, you know, challenging nature. So it's pretty interesting. So the book is a result of we would like to say, you know, evidence-based stuff, but it's really common sense based. And if David could lose his way with food, or I could not know about movement, and we both sort of took pride in being efficient and functional in what we were doing, imagine how powerful status quo is in our daily life. And we're not actually we aren't unconventional idealists, but everyone has the opportunity to be. So, you know, our whole idea of wellness intelligence is built on 14 foundations, one of which is called the wrong bus syndrome. And have you ever heard of it?
No, I don't know, but go ahead, talk.
It's just really, it's a really neat idea. It's just about the wrong bus. Like, as society, we are traveling on the wrong bus. And why are we going in the wrong direction? Why are we not doing right or well or as well for ourselves as we can? And it's basically that, you know, some people don't even know they're on the wrong bus. Some people think it's too expensive to get off the wrong bus. Some people think they don't have time to. They don't realize that there's options, and we're all right. That's what we're all guilty of. So the amazing thing is we believe that we can put something forward because we are students just like everyone else. So we want people to understand that we just believe that we're all on our own journey, and we all have, you know, anything's possible. That's the first page in our book. It's like, just believe that anything's possible. And here's the information. It's common sense. It's really good, but it does really buck gets you off the wrong bus and puts you onto the right bus. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, so I think just understanding that everything is based on these foundations, and once you understand the foundations, you can start to make your way to a place of wellness intelligence. I think one of the things that's most important that we learned when we were studying together is that we have these skills, and our skills are for the most part, they're specific. And what we learned was that our skills are transferable to anything else. And I guess what it taught us was that because I could transfer my skill set to just about anything else I'm wanting to learn, in essence, what it told us is that everything is connected. So all of the different realms of wellness are all basically, they come under the same rules.
Meaning if you're not a practice, you don't do breath work, but you're amazing in the kitchen, and you can figure out a recipe or be creative in cooking. And then you can also be creative with learning how to move or learning how to breathe.
Exactly.
So we have wellness intelligence. It's the book, or our work, is based on 5 ladders. And that's about, David was just saying, climbing to a place of wellness intelligence. And so we have 5 ladders, which took us a long time to figure out. You know, people all say there's pillars and categories, and we really had a hard time even defining ladders, because it kept blowing our minds. It's like everything is really connected. Like when David said movement's a priority because we're made to move, and I was like, okay, but you can't move without eating. Like, how is that not a priority? Or and breath, how do you
rest.
And rest. So our main ladders, in no order, are breath, to breathe, move, fuel, rest, and connect.
Right.
And, you know, connect being a ladder, that goes back to me telling David there, he kept saying to me, it's all connection, Lisa, it's connection, it's connection. I was like, I can't sell that. I don't understand. But we are now at a point where we really, I mean, I really do understand, and David understands even more. And
well, not even more, but
on a daily basis more. And so after, you know, working on those 5 ladders, and, you know, everything's with ebbs and flows. So I could say we're never really at the top of any ladder. There's always something more we can do, always something better, just by keeping an open mind, open heart, and, you know, the fact that we're always learning, we're on our own journey.
So we talk about middles. So there's never any end or any beginning. We're always somewhere in the middle. And so our lives are made up of constant middles. So you never feel as though you've arrived,
Mm-hmm.
and you never feel like you've shut something down either. So it's just I guess it's a beautiful way of taking on your day or taking on your
Which,
life.
you know, look at all the stuff that you're
Yeah.
learning and doing and taking on. So
Okay, there's a good pause. Thank you. I feel there were like so many questions. Like I think this and this. Yeah,
We're
right.
taking notes. We're taking notes.
I mean, I take notes every time so that later when I'm editing that I can actually do a little write up and some key phrases and words and stuff. Wow. I mean, everything that you're talking about, and I know you could keep talking, and I feel the energy. I feel it right now. I feel the energy that is you, that is this work, that is this evolution that is happening, this movement right now. And so there were so many different, times in my life, experiences, metaphors, examples that came to mind when you were both just speaking. And I guess for me, I mean, one of the things really that's happened for me since I really took an active part in my spiritual journey, like 4.5 years ago, just before we moved from Toronto to here, and it goes to connectivity and interconnectivity, and it speaks to the idea of oneness, that there's just this one creative energy, intelligence, beingness, source, whatever you want to call it, God, that's it. That's what's going on all the time. That there, if you go quantum, that there is this domain of potentiality that is infinite in scope, creative by nature. Every possibility that could ever be is available right here, right now, and is constantly, either in possibility form or in actual form, and just going back and forth. And we're always doing that with, the reality that we're creating just by virtue of our being. And so are we going to do it consciously, or are we going to do it unconsciously? Are we going to live our lives by default, or are we going to live them by design? And the more that I mean, it didn't take long, but at one point I realized as I was on this journey, why, the main reason that LPK's, my bakery that I had in Toronto, why sort of in the grand scheme of things, it didn't work. And when you guys talk about, whether it's your ladders or your foundations, or my teacher, he has a table, pillars, circle, what diagram, whatever you want to call it. If you're only focusing on one area and neglecting the others, how can there be balance? How can there be ebb and flow? How can there be harmony and this, amazing ongoing creative flow? How can you be open and allow for this divine guidance, to come through and to just guide you and express itself to, in the most unique, amazing way possible through and as you, if you are not fully aware as you can be of all these different aspects of your life? And so when you're talking about, wellness in all these different realms, it just makes me think of consciousness, and how even when people are talking about money and prosperity, well, prosperity, it's not just about money. It's not just about financial wealth. Prosperity is about your health and well-being. It is about creativity and expression. It is about your relationships, with people, with ideas, with whatever. And so I am loving what you guys are talking about, because it's so integrated, and the interconnectivity for me is foundational. And I love the idea of knowing and just feeling that I am interconnected to everyone and everything, because everyone and everything is some form of expression of this one universal energy, this creativity that is always in play. And so to be aware of that, to embrace that, to embody that, and to do it, on an ongoing basis. I mean, that's what life is all about. And so you guys bringing this wellness intelligence and this workbook and the work that you're doing, and just your energy and your passion to the world, I am so excited to look at that book. but I'm just so excited that this is happening, that this is happening because it's not just about eating the right food. It's not just about eating organic. It is not just about the yoga or the weight training or how many times you work out. And it's not just about meditating for this many minutes every single day. It's all of it together, and it can also look slightly different, depending on who you are, where you are, what season it is, what age you are, like all of it. So
that's when we were putting the book together. That was also the challenge, right? Because with everything being connected, we would have things like, where does this go? Where do we put this? And so you talk about financial wellness.
Yeah.
So we address that in so many ways, including the way you actually spend money. So it's not just what you have in your bank account, it's how you earn it, and but also how you spend it.
The power of the dollar.
And the power of the dollar. But, so you speak about the human relationships. So we have one page on human relationships. We have a page on, we mentioned that we make up words.
Yeah.
So kinesiosphere is that energy that we're
enveloped in,
that's communicating on our behalf, whether we're conscious or not conscious of it.
It's like an aura, somewhat like an aura.
Yeah. And what we take such pride in this book and in our work is that instead of speaking big, there's so many beautiful philosophers, there's so many beautiful and powerful spiritual teachings. And we want our book and Wellness Intelligence to actually support all of that, not be instead of. So we've broken all of these components down into tangible, like I do with everything, and David does and has always in his work, and put it in like a page format. So it's simple and it's understood. And you speak about how many minutes you meditate or how many times in the whole book. And there's 100 pages at least of it is on certain movement patterns. We have no metrics.
Yeah.
There are no metrics in the whole book. We do not say 25 reps. We do not say every day. We do not say 3 days a week. There is no program, because it's all about dialing into how you feel and understanding that everything you do matters.
Yeah.
And every choice you make matters, and everything's connected.
Exactly. And it's about being as efficient with your energy as possible too. So one of the things, Lucia, that I wanted to say is that I started going to market with Lisa, I guess at the beginning of the summer, right? And
when COVID.
Yeah. So we started going into market, and I'd never experienced standing in line with a bunch of people getting ready to go through and see all the different vendors. And I knew that the food that we were about to purchase and the people that we were about to meet, they were so highly specialized in the development of the best food that you could possibly eat to nourish your body. And I was surrounded by people that were so disconnected from their bodies all at the same time. So obesity, really poor quality movement, poor posture. And I said to Lisa one day, I said, I don't understand it. I don't understand how I'm surrounded by people that they are about to purchase and eat the best food that you can possibly put in your body. And why is there this rampant disconnect with the bodies that they live in? And
it was so funny because it's my happiest place.
Yeah.
And I just love the people there, and I love the food there. And, it's been something I've done as a mother with my, husband and kids for the forever since it started. And I'd never even dialed into that. So having David and teaching David and him showing me something else that's caused us to actually want to support the farmers, because they are supporting us in such an important way. And so our work, we just want to give back. We just want to help. So those are people that we're really interested in supporting, helping them discover their wellness intelligence so they can.
Amazing. That's one of the things that I sort of think about in the spiritual world, where we started with this path that I'm on right now in Toronto, and then for me transferred here. Glenn has sort of veered off in a slightly different direction, but for me, one of the things that I notice, even though I study through Los Angeles, is that the community that I'm with here, And even being here, even though there are a lot of healthy people, there are people who are outside all the time. I mean, any day there's like a pack of senior cyclists that are like going through, you know, our little village or Sydney or on the highway or whatever in the middle of our winter kind of thing. There are people who wear shorts here all year round. And there are people who are so active. And on the other hand, there are people who just are not. And in my world where we talk about how everything, like we are creating our reality with what we not even think, what we believe, you know, whether we're aware of those beliefs or not. And this is what we teach, and this is what we talk about, and this is what we gather and get together and like just deepen, you know, in just sort of down that sort of path. Yet there are so many who are overweight, who have mobility issues, who, you know, will talk about all of this amazing creativity and energy and oneness and interconnectivity. And I create my reality, and then say when our gathering time is over, oh man, my bursitis, oh, my doctor's appointment, oh, this. And so that's kind of that disconnect that you know, I'm like, am I being judgmental here? Because I mean, I have stuff that, you know, I'm working on, and there are things that I'm stronger in and things that I'm not as strong in. I feel I'm pretty aware though of where that disconnect is, and where some extra nourishment is required. But it just like it amazes me how people who have been, you know, studying, who have been teaching, who are, say, higher up, you know, in the organization, or are examples and leaders and stuff like that, how they can be so strong and so focused and so devoted and passionate about one aspect of their lives. But then, David, you know, like you mentioned, but then there's this. And a lot of times, at least from what I see, it's physical health that just loses out to other stuff. And so do you have any thoughts on why that is?
So the interesting thing about the human body is it is the consummate energy conservation machine. So it will do whatever it needs to do to conserve energy, even if it's at the long-term detrimental effect. So for example, we will change the way we move to conserve energy, even if it changes the way we live in our bodies. And I mean, so for example, the primary muscle of locomotion is your glute, your buttocks. So that's where we thrust, and that's what propels us forward. And if you watch people go up and down stairs or go up a hill, they have this tendency to bend forward and use the front part of the leg to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. What ends up happening is, so they start to default to a secondary muscle, and then it weakens the primary muscle. But it's a form of efficiency. It's a form of something that we do naturally to create efficiency. And the detrimental effect is we start to lose the primary locomotion in our body. The hip becomes unstable. We get hip pain, and then eventually what happens is the hip breaks down.
Mm-hmm. So it goes into our knee and into our foot, right?
And the thing about the hip too, as Lisa was saying, is that it refers up into your spine. So it starts to cause lower back pain. And it also refers down into your knee and your lower body, your ankle and your foot. So it starts to create. So it's just it's a chain. And basically when you interrupt the chain and the way it's supposed to work, there's an effect above and below the chain as well.
Dealing with that right now myself, I have to say.
Yeah. And so one of the things that was which was amazing before COVID, when we were doing these workshops, it was David teaching primarily that physical movement called future proofing. Mm-hmm. And it was about helping you, you know, age gracefully and live well in your body from a more physical standpoint. And so even though I helped put the program together, David was teaching it. And I was at all the workshops in the back of the room, as he said, trying to micromanage and keep him fun and do my best. But I really did have this, you know, I got to see what David didn't, because he was teaching. And we would do workshops from somewhere, you know, 10 to 12 people. Yeah. And they started to be for, you know, we thought 45 to 70-year-old. And it turned out that we had teenagers, and we had an
80 plus.
Yeah. And when David was teaching, you know, so many people have this lower back pain or hip pain or knee pain. And we would stand in one of the tracks that David came up with was about eccentric loading. Yeah. an eccentric strength, and he would teach everyone how to go downstairs, and you'd see everyone's like, oh, so boring. It's like they want, people want. And I learned all about movement because I just stood at the bottom of stairs with David, and he would be like, this is what's happening, and these are the mechanics. And so fascinating. But when he taught people going down, how to go downstairs, the aha moments, and people would say weeks later, like, I'm moving entirely differently because of those 5 minutes that David spent, because it was about core breath connection and using, glutes and quads properly.
So Lucia, this is not magic. It's just that connection that we spoke of, and it's just understanding how the body is supposed to move. Whenever there's gravity, we have this tendency to give into gravity, and we start to plop down the stairs. Or when you sit into a chair, to sit down with control so that you're actually lowering the body into the chair, as opposed to just, I see this all the time when I watch people get into their cars, where they'll open up the door, they'll turn themselves around, and they will aim their butt at the seat, and they will literally let themselves fall back. So there's absolutely no control. If you do that once, it's no big deal. But if you do that thousands and thousands of times over a year, then over years, you actually lose the skill.
Yeah.
So basically, all I'm doing is I'm just, it's not magic. I'm just teaching people how to move the way the body was designed to move. So when you're stepping from one step down to the next step, don't plop. So eventually what happens is you start to plop. We call it plunking, no plunking. And so when you plunk, then you lose the ability to control that. And then you start putting your hand on the railing, and then you start using the railing for support. And so it's one thing after another and
you lose your confidence.
Yes.
That's what we found from people would say they would lose their confidence. And, you talk about going back to the wrong bus syndrome that we spoke about. It's status quo almost enables us to do things improperly. The car seat, is higher, or David would say, you lose the ability to sit down on your chair, and you're plunking all the time. That's why when you're older, there's those, it's like the lazy boy
that comes up, and you sit in it, and then it lowers you back
or
down.
the toilet seats, the toilet seats that you buy so you don't have to lower yourself. So, using your breath and your core. So David teaches that at the beginning of these sessions, and then takes it to walking downstairs and sitting into chairs. And then the first track for movement was just about David teaching people about their foot health and how to stand properly, because we've lost that because we spend so much time in shoes that are designed for fashion and not for life.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting, Lucia, is that if you watch children move, so you're probably going to see us on the news one day, because Lisa and I, we lurk around children's playgrounds. And
it's not as creepy for me as it is for him.
The reason we do that is because we're born knowing how to move perfectly. We really are. And so if you watch children move, they just move with such precision and such connection. And for whatever reason, as we age, that whole idea of finding the most efficient way to do something, even if it's detrimental to the long-term evolution of the body, and then watching people standing at the bottom of a staircase and just watching hundreds of people go down the stairs, and just showing Lisa where the deficiencies are and how to correct them. But I think what's most important is that, I guess we're a bit movement-based right now, but everything else that we do has that same sort of approach.
Multi-dimensional.
Yeah, we look at the deficiencies created by disconnection, or us naturally just defaulting to an easier way to do it. It's laziness.
Okay.
It's the same as convenience food. It's the same as a convenience store. It's the same as a Starbucks
Exactly.
coffee. It's anything that's facilitating us to believe it's convenient, but it's like convenient, right? So it's unhealthy for us. It's unhealthy for our communities. It's unhealthy for our planet.
And it's robbing us of a natural aspect of living, a natural way of being.
So we're trying to find ways at having that conversation, which is, busting out linear systems and making things multidimensional and expansive instead.
Mm-hmm.
And the aha moments, which are so crazy too, when we were doing these workshops, the aha moments where people actually, the light bulb went on.
Yeah.
you could see them in the room, and it was just so exciting. It was like the biggest reward for us to have somebody really have something land. It was so cool.
Yeah, there's when there was something that I thought that Glenn might want to talk about, but just before I hand it over to him, I was thinking back to watching Milana, our daughter who is now 16, who who when she was little and she was a toddler, and just this perfect posture. Like when they sit, I mean, they're just like their spines are beautiful. They're just so erect and they're doing their things. And it like amazing, 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 amazing. And almost like no matter what, breathing through their noses. And just so many things like as they're moving around and just everything that you said, sort of, as you're lurking around the playgrounds. Yeah, no, I remember. And I mean, now like she's, I still, find her absolutely just, she is such a powerhouse and I just love her and am so inspired by her. However, she has become aware that in her teenage years, even though she's very active and she is in performing arts and in musical theater, and so she's always dancing around a stage and stuff, but she's concerned about her posture, about how it's not like it was when she was a little kid and whatever. So she's working at it now. But the thing that I also thought about when you were talking about little kids and how they move was Honey Bunch, about the grounding, the earthing, and the kids and the bare feet. Do you want to, because you haven't had a chance to say anything so far, so why don't you go now?
Okay. Now, I'm actually sitting on my, I have a grounding mat for earthing mat for.
I have one here too.
So I don't have one to sit on. So I basically put this on my skin and plug this in when I'm going to be sitting for a long time. But that's one thing that was like you said, aha moments. That one was for me around the same time I discovered Wim Hof's breathing ideas. I came across that Clint Ober's, the guy who kind of introduced the idea of earthing into North American society anyway. It was just like, oh, right. Until about maybe 150 years ago, people walked on the earth or their shoes were made of, leather or something that was conductive to the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the society we have now is what, 90 something percent, they're not walking on the earth anymore, whether it's their shoes being plastic or rubber, or our homes, that we're way off the ground and whatever. And just that simplicity of like, oh, if we were to do that, I wonder what kind of difference it would make in the health of our daily lives of all of us. Like if we did like a COVID type pause experiment on that, and just said, here, the government's going to send you these things, for example, or, some way you get these, or just get some silver masking tape, duct tape, and put it across your bed as you're sleeping and attach a wire outside
or go outside for 10 minutes
or step if it isn't snowing or whatever, even if it is sometimes.
if it is, right, about breathing your biome and going outside into nature every day, no matter what the problem is.
I'm like that was an eye opener for me. I just thought, wow. And the Wim Hof thing, and I haven't read the book, but this guy James Nestor, who was on Joe Rogan's podcast talking, his book's called Breath. Based, I think, around the idea of Buddhist monks in like Tibet and Nepal, their ideas of breathing being mostly, obviously, it's like through the nose, and a lot of Western people breathe through their mouth, and how it changes the shape of your mouth by just doing this all the time. And I know it can be difficult if you're going to run or something to insist on like telling your body, I'm going to breathe through my nose, even if it's really, really cold when you're running, but it's still better for you, right? Never mind the whole like take 6 deep breaths and, reset your parasympathetic nervous system, whatever. But I'm like making notes here and really impressed with like it seems that you use this opportunity of COVID in such a lovely way to complement one another's strengths and weaknesses, I guess, and try to figure out like where can I learn here and where can I teach, and it's sort of like a reciprocal loop of that cooperation, right? Um, the the way you're explaining this, it's sort of, I can see how being cooperative versus being competitive is maybe something we have to teach ourselves or remind ourselves again and again, that it's like, even when you're, say, focused on fitness and going to the gym or something and hitting goals and this kind of thing, that's still a form of competitiveness with yourself. And I know it can be a good thing, like discipline and that kind of thing can help build your stamina and your, increase your growth potential and that kind of thing. But I think really we've been given these easy ways out that, as you said, like being lazy and when you said watching people going down the stairs, I thought, when was the last time I saw people going down the stairs? Because most people in the mall or something, they're going to stand on that,
Escalator, elevator.
escalator. And it's like, oh, okay, there's so many examples of isn't technology great, but is it really, like in the long term?
Yeah.
And the body thing, like you've given so many examples there. I'm really looking forward to stealing the book away from Lassie when she gets it. But the other idea was like what you're, back to what you said in the beginning about just changing the status quo. It reminded me of the Buckminster Fuller quote. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Probably yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
about
In order to change an existing paradigm, you do not struggle to try and change the problematic model. You create a new model and make the old one obsolete, right? So you're doing that kind of thing.
I spoke to somebody who's great. He's in, it's more on the business side, and he's a huge fan of Buckminster Fuller. And so he used that quote over and over again. We just had a conversation with him the other day, and it's just about a new way of thinking.
Yeah. I'm going to make one suggestion. If you're going to do the chairs thing, sitting in chairs, maybe you could have a class, if David's going to do this again, where you play musical chairs and then watch people sit down properly. You can't just find the chair, you have to sit down correctly.
We're due to come out west in June to speak at a conference for 3 days, and so we'll come and we'll play with chairs with you. So, but it is part of our future proofing workshop. It's also in the book, even, that we encourage people, because it's the simple things like that, Glenn, that make all the difference. So we believe that we've researched, there's so many solutions that we have already built in. It's like so much possibility without even buying anything, without following any gimmick or magic bullet. And it's just like you said about grounding. It can be something so simple, and about the understanding. So Wim Hof, that's great. And so our work also would complement that, because we do go into the vagus nerve, but from a very, very practical standpoint of understanding that washing your face with cold water or ending your shower with cold water can make a huge difference, and the why. So we would say, you have to know your why. They would used to say, what did you say in your class? You were like, if I asked you why,
and you couldn't tell me why, then you're probably not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So
So that was the amazing thing about going to David's classes, because I would go to yoga classes and they could be fantastic with an amazing teacher. And I would go to his yoga class and he was talking the whole time, and you would also learn at the same time. So you weren't just in practice, but you were taking away so much understanding of your body that I never would have had, just understanding why we are doing a certain posture, or what was happening in the posture, why it was good. And so we've stayed true to that, which is always delivering the why and making it accessible. So a 13-year-old should be able to do this book, and an 85-year-old should be able to use this book, because it's not too late and the stuff's really simple and accessible and functional, and we've broken it down into bite-sized pieces. So Wim Hof, that's like a whole program and a whole amazing it's an
Protocol,
amazing
yeah.
protocol, but we've broken, breath down into small pieces. We've called meditation, and talk about it, unmeditation.
Unmeditation, and basically
another made up word.
Yeah. So basically, meditation has all these rules that you're supposed to follow. And as you were talking about, Lucia, earlier about the counting of breath and like just like a 6-count inhale and then a pause. So what we've asked people to do is to just put all of that stuff aside and just breathe and then dial into your breath without being critical. So without being critical, just listen to yourself breathe, and then start to change the way you breathe based on what it is that you're looking for. So if you're looking to calm the body down, you would slow the exhale down, because the exhale is what has great effect on your parasympathetic nervous system. So without criticism, without being analytical, I would just start to slow the way I breathe without counting. And it's amazing. The breath, its impact on the body is immediate if you don't let all of the numbers and the protocols get in the way. And I think that one of the things that people really want is they want direction, they want guidance, they want to know that they've got to exhale for 6 breaths and then pause for 2 seconds and then inhale. And we're trying to strip that away and give them the power to breathe or unmeditate the way they were designed to.
So it's also just, besides the fact that we like to make up words because it makes sense, but from a marketing standpoint, so from a personal standpoint, first is I'm pretty like wound up on person, and 3 kids and running a business, and meditation, sitting in lotus and being still was something that was like not only not possible according to me then, but also just not even feasible. Like it just wasn't enjoyable. I didn't like it. And also counting breath, David would say, if you're counting your breath and that's what you're focused on, you're also more in sympathetic than parasympathetic. So David said, why don't you just lie down? I was like, you can lie down to meditate. And that was all it took. And so I lay down. I was like, oh my goodness. So, and I just have really taken on, and that's how I meditate. I meditate in Shavasana all the time. And that's what I do. And I'm not saying that's right for the next person, but it certainly made a difference. I was like, oh my God, to undefine what it means just to be connected to my breath and stillness and quiet and taking that pause. It's such a beautiful thing. I would have never gotten up from my desk to do that before.
So just to understand that if you're lying down and you're focused on your breathing and the body needs to go to sleep, then it will go to sleep. But I think you'll get to a point where when you're rested, you can lie down and let your breath happen naturally, and you're not going to fall asleep. And that's, I think that this is what people don't understand. So the whole idea of unmeditation for me was to understand that as soon as I restrict my breathing by counting, the very first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to trip my sympathetic nervous system, and I'm actually going to wind myself up. And I'm trying to get the opposite result. So I'm going to strip all of that away, and I'm just going to breathe. That's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to lay down because I really like laying down when I meditate, and I've been doing it for years. And on occasion, I fall asleep. And if I do fall asleep, I know that it's because my body wanted to fall asleep. I don't chastise myself. I'll wake up during the meditation, and I'll just kind of segue back into what it was that I was doing. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful experience that has very little constraint.
So Glenn, you just talk about, you talk about grounding, we talk about connection, and we talk about breath and movement, and not that there's not a time where we want to be able to be in ebbs and flows in our nervous system, but actually understanding how to take ourselves into, to trigger our parasympathetic nervous system is so huge. And that's going into nature or grounding or breath or Wim Hof, any of those things all have that in common. We were like, nervous system, where does that fit in? And it's everywhere. It fits in everywhere. So, an understanding of that. And I always said to David, people don't want to understand. Like, I want to understand. I want to do. I want to accomplish. I want to do better. And you realize that you do better by being better, by having an understanding, by knowing your why, by identifying possibility, and that everything really is connected. Back to what I said about David changing the way I breathe and my core breath connection, taking away my lower back pain.
Mhm.
It made me, I could lift more weight,
Yeah.
safer, feel better and stronger in my body. So obviously that then affects me and my confidence and my focus and my productivity, and to be able to sit at my
Yeah.
desk with less pain and, you know, be happier overall. So
Yeah.
it's, we don't want to tell people we're selling happiness and
Yeah.
we're, you know, live your best life, because those words are all taken, but we really do believe we're not only, you know,
Yeah.
that if you give us a chance, that you're giving yourself a chance.
Yep.
And also that we're supporting all the specialists and experts out there that have so much amazing stuff to offer,
Yeah.
but are maybe in one category, and we just want to bridge that gap
Yeah.
between all of them.
Yeah.
The idea of experiential knowledge too. Sorry, the idea of experiential knowledge. I was, my mother had COPD, so she had a breathing disorder. So when I was in the womb, I was exposed to that. So it's the very first sensation that I had in conception, after conception, was my mother's difficulty with breathing.
Mhm.
And I was born and cradled in her arms for years. And there was always this COPD that I was exposed to. And unbeknownst to me, it caused me to have a breath disorder myself. And it was a psychological disorder. There was nothing wrong with me physically. But as I got older, it became more and more pronounced, and it started to cause anxiety. And going to therapy to understand how to release that, understand what was happening, this in part led us to removing all of the restrictions that would cause the sympathetic nervous system to kick in. So like this has profound understanding and basis to, even though we've changed it to unmeditation, and even though we speak of it at a very light level, there's a tremendous amount of foundation to what we're delivering.
Mhm.
We're just not getting into the specifics of it. And I would say that all of the work that we do has that same sort of essence to it as well.
Mhm. Glenn, you look like
Yeah.
you want to say something.
Just one other follow-up on that. So I think at the beginning you mentioned, or earlier you mentioned about just general positivity, things like that. Now, is there an element to this work that is focused on the idea of constructive thoughts and beliefs and expectations, in terms of, like, when you begin anything that involves improvement, whether it's health or diet, you know, you're changing habits, you're examining what you have been doing as sort of patterns that are just very familiar, and you know, they're your fallback positions and that kind of thing. But and there's a comfort in that, but clearly you're not going to use those same patterns to get up here, or to get a new kind of vista on what's available to you. Is there something that is included in what you're talking about that speaks to that idea of that, you know, good things are available, right? Like my big sort of core belief overall, spiritually and so forth, is you know, it's consciousness first. Like, you know, matter didn't exist before consciousness. Like that's what I believe. I'm not a materialist. So now what goes with that for me is what Einstein said is, you know, the universe is friendly. And my belief is, you know, I live in a safe universe. That propels me forward, and it stands me in good stead. And I believe it. And when I'm challenged, I try to, you know, take a breath, take a moment, and go back to just knowing that. So is there something for you, either of you, or within that concept, where you've looked at it and said, you know, it's important to remind yourself that you are capable of, or that, you know, you're born to grow, like you know, we're born to be better, right?
I would say one of the things that we have learned through our work, even just together, is that everything's meant for feeling.
Yeah.
Like that whole multidimensional. It's like we talk about broadening your scope, and it's about feeling full spectrum.
Yeah.
So it's great to be positive. I mean, obviously, going back to trusting yourself, loving yourself, and being in the moment obviously matters.
Yeah.
But it's also understanding that we're allowed to be sad or mad.
Yeah.
You know, it's everything's temporary. So it's understanding that you can also feel. We had this whole thing for the longest time. It's like dynamic opposites. You could be, you know, COVID's a perfect example. Like I know, I believe that everybody is struggling. We're all struggling. So David and I seem like we're having the time of our lives, and we're so proud of our work, and everything's amazing, but also everything is so challenging, and it's a struggle every day. And you know, my kids are amazing, but they struggle every day. So just allowing that to all exist together is okay. And you know, that's how growth happens, right? From
So
the discomfort.
A couple of things, Glenn, as Lisa was saying, the whole idea of dynamic opposite. So allowing yourself to be happy and sad simultaneously. And I think that that's a really interesting way to exist. I have a syndrome that I call the village idiot syndrome. So just like allowing yourself to be someplace for no reason. So like the village idiot is that the guy sitting on the corner and he's always happy and he has absolutely no reason to be happy, but he's happy. So, and the same thing goes with sadness. Like I know that Lisa and I, we play off of one another, and it's like every once in a while we need to be reminded that it's okay to be sad for no other reason than you just need to experience this emotion to keep yourself emotionally balanced. So I find that this is a really beautiful thing, to know that it's okay to be sad without having some sort of concrete reason to be sad. And the same thing for happy.
And then for growth, just to talk about that, I mean, we talk about, you know, David would basically, I think every class would remind you, you know, if you're not challenging yourself, like it's, the growth comes from the confusion, right? Adversity, it comes from that adversity. So this is, I don't know if you can see it in there, but we can send that. If you want.
Okay.
But it's about brain intelligence, and
another
you know,
word.
we have another word that we made up just to not, we don't want to hit any guardrails and upset people about using terms wrong. So we just changed them and made them right for ourselves to be able to land it. So brain intelligence really is about, you know, neuroplasticity, but it's really about learning. And, you know, do you want to, so we do all these sort of circles, these visuals to explain what's happening. And about learning, it's about learning something new. And then
that creates confusion. And then the confusion is followed by discomfort. And then the discomfort's followed by adaptation. And then the adaptation is followed by improvement. So it's very circular. Every time we learn something new, every time we're exposed to something new, the very first thing that happens is confusion. And then most of the time it's discomfort. And then you get that adaptation and then the improvement. And it's very cyclic. And that's
right. So if you believe in that, then you're like always going to be able to learn, because you realize that through that discomfort and confusion that there's change ahead. And if that's what you're after, do you know what I mean? And you're talking about improvement or betterment, and you're saying about beginning a journey in there. I think, you know, back to where we came from originally, we're all on our own journeys. So we're all doing our own thing. And I guess, you know, even coming from working in business development for, you know, clients, I really believe if you're not innovating and you're not moving forward, you're losing ground and you're moving backwards. So I think as humans, you know, being kind, I could say, I think I'm a kind person, but I also believe that I can be kinder, that there's just always better to do. And I don't mean that about obsessing about it and working on it in that way, but keeping an open mind and allowing discomfort and change to be something that we grow from. And so that's one of our foundations is brain intelligence. And it's about helping people embrace that discomfort and confusion, that it's okay. We're all learning. So it's like give yourself the opportunity to suck at something, because that's where you get better at it, and building tiny habits along the way.
I think what I do is I try to get people to envision their brain as their bicep. So your brain is actually a muscle, a neurological muscle. And so if I challenge the muscle to work, it gets stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't challenge it, then it becomes complacent and it starts to fall apart. So I think that it's a really important kind of visualization to understand that the brain is just a neurological muscle. And it's so if I'm going to keep myself fit by moving or doing any sort of strengthening or stretching, so stretching as well, I have to do the same thing with my brain. I have to strengthen my brain. I have to stretch it.
So it means
yeah.
not, you know, Taco Tuesday is great, but if you have Taco Tuesday and it's the exact same thing every Tuesday, you're not,
yeah.
you know, you're not learning and growing in the kitchen. So it's about use a different ingredient maybe, or try something different. So not making the same recipes all the time is the same as
Yeah.
not always doing the same meditation. Try different ones. Not always grounding yourself in the same way, not always moving yourself
Yeah.
the same way, the same plane. And so always sort of challenging yourself through confusion or
so the best way to do this, Lucia, do you know the best way to do this? You do know this.
As Lisa's talking, I'm just thinking, do things that you do every day in different ways, like brush your teeth with your other hand, stand on one foot when you're doing something, walk backwards, put your coat on in a different way, like did simple things like that.
Something more simple than that, Glenn?
No, I was going to say that brush your teeth with your left hand, or you know.
Okay.
Like,
how about dance?
Ooh.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay. Do you hear that, Glenn? Dance.
Dance.
You're being given permission to dance. You're being given an assignment to dance.
At last. Sorry, Glenn. It seems like your wife just won something.
It's the best. It is the absolute best way to keep the brain functioning, high functioning.
And it's
love it.
Yeah.
I love it because I love dance. That's my favorite way to exercise because it's not exercise. It's movement and it's expressive and it's creative and it's artistic and it's fun and there's music and there's so many different ways to do it. So yeah, okay, I love that. Dance.
Expressive. It's so many different levels, right? So that's why you talk about your daughter dancing.
Yeah.
And being expressive in arts. Like, I mean, she's living the best life possible.
Yeah.
She really is.
If she's happy and connected to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is. There is pressure, there is stress, definitely, but she takes it on. She embraces it. And I'm even, 2 days ago, she came and she sat down. I have to talk to you. And then she, laid some stuff on me about this performance that they're rehearsing for, where she has one of the 2 lead roles. And I mean, I can't even imagine anyone else being picked for this role because it's like she's the one, and the teachers, the producers, like they also saw that in her. But she was thinking, I don't have it in me. I don't know who this character is. I don't know the background, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but you have it in you to like bring that forth, to like yesterday.
A cookie named after her.
But then yesterday, she's like, waltzes into the living room. I'm going to steal the show and this and that. And the confidence was, and I'm like, okay, so can you just for a moment, be conscious of what you're saying and what you're feeling right now, backtracking to the conversation we had not even 48 hours ago. And she's like, yeah, okay. And it was just so amazing to see, the arc, to see the trajectory, because it was like her all along. And it was exactly what you were talking about, just now, that circle of, the discomfort and the something new, and I'm probably getting it a little mixed up.
It's okay.
It's so true. And it's something that I experienced in a huge way, like profound way last week when I sat down to write a newsletter. I was in the middle of an email to some other people that I do a once a month live podcast with. And then I had just found out that I was going to be, the day before, that I was going to be filling in for our minister at our center on Sunday to do the Sunday talk because she had to have some emergency surgery. And so I'd been given a topic which I wasn't super comfortable or gung-ho with, but thought, no, I'm going to rise to the challenge because this is what you do as a minister when you're a minister. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. I'll do my research. But then as I was sitting down to write my newsletter and thinking about this talk and thinking about what I had to say in this email about the upcoming podcast, these voices started coming in of No one wants to hear what you have to say. Nobody takes what you do seriously. And the big one, which comes up every now and then, is you're a fraud. Now, I know enough to know, and most times I can just sort of like, thank you, that's not my reality. Whoosh. But every now and then, and I know enough to know that when this is happening, it is a period of profound growth, of some kind of expansion, of the next level of becoming, and that I cannot sweep them under the rug, under the carpet, put them in a box and tie a little bow and, hide it in the closet. It's something that needs to come out. It needs to bubble up. It needs to be known. It needs to be felt. It needs to be expressed. I need to just flow through it and allow them to flow through me. And there's this amazing saying I love: you can go through hell, just don't build a condo there. And so this is me going through my hell, not building a condo. It sucks big time, in the middle of it. And even sometimes that voice of, this is just like it's come to pass, like you're in it now, but it's impermanent, it's temporary, and it is growth. That is what's happening.
Yes.
And then the next day, completely wrung out and just so zen, because of the volatility that had occurred the day before, but also expanded. And then there's sort of the like, okay, now I'm in the new, and now there's this, and now the pain and the discomfort is gone. I'm feeling very calm, and like maybe my energy is, at a 1 versus a 10, like most of the time it is, but that's okay because I need to just, continue to process. And then the stuff came, and my Sunday talk ended up, being inspired by that entire thing, which totally got tied into the topic that I put a whole other spin on, which people loved. And so it just, yes, that circle, that explanation, those steps, those stages, it's incredible. And when people don't allow themselves the opportunity to go through that because they think it's too painful, it's too hard, I can't do it, I don't know, they're just robbing themselves of, that next better, more amazing experience of that is just wanting to come up anyway.
So I think, Lucia, you said something that was really important. And I've said this to Lisa a number of times. You said, that's okay, that it's okay. So I think it's important to understand that when you're confused, when you have fear and there's discomfort, that it's an okay situation. Mm-hmm. And I say, like a cloud moving through the sky. It's in your vision, and then it's just going to gently move its way on.
Yeah.
And like nothing that we experience is permanent. Yeah. but nothing is permanent.
Yeah.
Like really nothing is permanent. So just the understanding that I think that the anxiety that I dealt with when I was growing up, when I came to terms with its presence, and I realized that being anxious was okay and just let it make its way through my being, that's when I started to no longer be controlled by my anxiety.
And also, the book itself is a product of us getting like pretty messy, trying to navigate, not just,
like total meltdowns.
Total meltdowns. Total. And, we would argue, and not ever with conflict argue, but it would be like, both of us having our own discomfort in the moment, and also the discomfort because, I've been self-employed forever, and I worked on my own and in my basement for a reason. It's that unconventional thing, the idealist thing. And David also was like on his own, so we're two really like opinionated, right? It's like we have certain things that we do not rest on, and that's what the book is, that product of total meltdowns and getting really, really messy, which also that's when the book started becoming real and really actually us realizing that this is actually going to land. This can actually land when we got messier, because if we just sort of went at it and put a page down based on what we knew, it was okay. It was good, but it was not anything like when we allowed ourselves to be uncomfortable. We learned from it, and then we put our learnings back into the page, which is why couple of the pages,
Yeah.
especially the one on the nervous system, that working in the window of tolerance, which we used in the book. That took us 2 weeks.
But it was such a big understanding, though, for us as well. And it really has, that page, that one page has changed the way we live our lives.
Mm.
So it's quite something.
Work, how I work with clients,
Yeah.
how I am with my kids, how I am with Rob, like everything.
So lots of aha moments for us as we were making our way through the book.
So that's the best part of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, I'm looking at the time and we're probably about an hour and a half and I feel like we're just getting started. But this isn't Joe Rogan, so we're gonna stop, pretty soon. But Honey Bunch, is there anything else that you want to ask or chime in on before we start to wrap it up?
Is there any video footage of this book coming into existence? Because I would have appreciated some example that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know probably there wasn't, but is there a plan to do like snippets on some kind of social media to like video clips or whatever that you can use examples, or some things can be better understood and dispersed into the community through sort of video means, or you know what I mean? Like, is there a plan to do part of that?
One of the things about our book is we always say the book is, it's a journey. You take it on and you do the work, but we're also aware that the book it's a course, it's an experience. It's not a book. It's not something you read once from cover to cover and you're done. So our last chapter is about, keep climbing, like keep going, and that it's a middle. And we have video support. So part of what you get with the book is that you get, so all the movement patterns are done on video. And, we're new at this. Technology is a whole amazing thing, the things that we can do. But the reason why we work with people in sessions right now, obviously more between the weather and COVID, we're doing it online. But the book is the guide, and it holds sort of a protocol in the things that we would cover, but we provide that accountability and that, talking one-on-one. So, lots of people have things they want to focus on specifically, so we can do that. And so everything, the physical movement, everything can be done on video. And we do have, there's a lot of support behind a password protected area that's exclusive for people who have the book, because yes, a book is not necessarily going to be enough.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And you want proof of some of the struggles, just ask some of the neighbors when they heard us outside. I can remember one time in particular where Lisa stormed away from me and I threw my arms up in the air and I said, "You've ruined my life." This was done like in public. So
wow.
Just very high emotional place. Just like, going off the deep end and then pulling yourself back to an incredible state of balance. That's actually, because of that action, it's taken us to a higher level of interaction as well.
The first time he met me, he told me I was challenging. So I just want to make sure I live up to that standard on a daily basis.
Yeah, because challenging goes on and on, doesn't it? It's,
It certainly does.
Wow.
Okay,
Cool.
well, I just thank you to you both. We're not quite done yet, but there's the first round of thank yous, and I really do feel like we just kind of scratched the surface today. But what an incredibly rich, amazing conversation. I am once again so excited for you guys. I am so excited for the world. I am so excited for just this incredible evolution, this wellness intelligence that you have, birthed, carved out of, just what you guys found and have worked with. And that, it's just not only something that you are giving, but you are living. And so, I'm just really, really grateful that you took the time out to chat with us today.
As are we.
Yes.
It's amazing to connect with someone who believes in what you're doing and the enthusiasm, because, as you say, that that connection is so important to us.
It is.
So even though we believe in it, it's so validating when somebody else has an aha moment or appreciates what we're doing, because we know that we're only able to do this with everybody else.
So the idea of building community, which is what we're doing right now, it's such a it's a significant, gratifying thing that we're doing right now. And it's not so much the information that we're imparting, it's just, as Lisa was saying, surrounding yourself by like-minded people who actually understand, they get it, they reinforce.
And they want to be part of something.
And they serve it back to you as well, right? So we learn so much every time we interact with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a slight aside, but Lisa, are you guys in your office right now? Okay, so
the same as when you were here last, no?
Okay, so I don't know if you remember this or not, but I had a meeting with you one day when I was feeling really sick. And I came to you, we had a half-hour meeting. It was about a new brand, the Delights brand. And you said, just, I think you might've drawn, I don't know if I drew a circle, you drew a circle, and then you printed something. It was supposed to be a legible word within a circle with my signature on it. And this printout came out with this green, solid, like weird, what is that? Like different hues of like the same, like the same color with like lines in it. And you're like, oh my God, Lesia, look what your energy did to my printer. And it was just like, what happened? And now, like, honestly, when I look back on that, it's like, how could that not have happened? It was so funny. And that's just what I remembered by looking at your office right there. And really, going back to sort of that understanding of you focus so much, on one area of your life, but not on the others. And, that's where, imbalance ends up showing up like a weird green circle coming out of someone's printer. Anyway, okay. So, just to lighten things up and make things fun, even though they've been kind of fun throughout, we're going to move into, what were you going to say?
We'll do the 60 seconds if it's just David, right?
What? Are you going to go back and forth? I know Lisa said David's going to do it, but.
What?
It's good. It's good.
No, back and forth. 90 seconds, back and forth. Okay, so it's going to be a rapid fire question round. So Glenn's going to flip back and forth. So just whoever he starts with, next person, just alternate in answers, just off the top of your head, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, no thinking about it. It's just meant to be fun. This isn't a game show for like $100 million or anything. It's just
no pressure.
I'm going to do it for the discomfort factor. All about it for me.
It's a meltdown right here, live, well, not live, recorded.
Okay. So good at it.
All right. Okay. So, we just hit the top of the minute, but okay. Honey Munch, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm just moving one since they're both doing this. Okay.
Okay. All right. So 10 seconds to go. And then at the end, you will know what you've won. So right now, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Starting with Lisa. Do you sing in the shower?
No.
Okay, David, how many tattoos do you have?
5.
Yes.
Okay. Back to Lisa. Mask or mezuzah?
Mezuzah.
Okay. Swimming or skiing? David.
Swimming.
Okay. Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Okay. Hot or cold shower?
Hot.
Okay. Books or movies?
Books.
Okay. Consciousness or energy?
Energy.
Okay. Vegan or plant-based?
Lisatarian.
New lexicon. Exercising the body or the mind?
The mind.
Okay. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Neither.
Ah! Okay. Appetizer or dessert?
Dessert.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. Walking on the beach or in a forest?
In the forest.
Okay. Kindness or compassion?
Compassion.
Salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Bicycles or cars?
Bicycles.
Music or books?
Music.
Cher or Lady Gaga?
Lady Gaga.
Ding, 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 ding,
All right.
ding.
You can tell I'm running out of good ones here. So.
All right, Glenn, tell Lisa and David what
All
they
right.
won.
You have one. Da-da-da-da-da-da. From my favorite book of aphorisms, and
Sounds scary.
it's how I appear to be a smarty pants sometimes.
Anyone,
So,
can you please say the title and the author? Because some people would just be listening.
James Geary. He has a recent book on humor, which is really good. But this is his book of Geary's Guide to the World's Greatest Aphorists. And this is one I really like. I think it fits with your team. Aristotle. We live in deeds, not years, in thoughts, not breaths. Ooh, that's controversial right there. In feelings, not in figures on a dial. We should count time by heartthrobs. He most lives, who thinks most, feels the noblest, acts the best.
Beautiful.
All right. I like it.
Congratulations.
Thank
Woo!
you.
All right. So before we go, Lisa and David, if people wanted to find out more about you, the Akira concept, where is the best place for people to go and find you?
TheAkiraConcept.com is the best place. We are at the Akira Concept on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook as well.
Cool.
All right. Awesome. So thank you once again. This was so much fun, so enlightening, so inspiring, so engaging. I'm so grateful for you both for coming and chatting with us, for inspiring and educating us. And I will think very differently now when I'm getting into my car, when I am walking down the stairs, and just continuing to really endeavor to live in harmonious balance and be very conscious of every aspect of my life. And I am so looking forward to getting your book. And Ashley, where's your book available? Is the best place to get it off from your website?
On theakiraconcept.com, there is on the navigation bar, you can just click on the workbook and it shows you all the places that you can get it, a little bit about it.
Okay.
There's so much content on your site too.
Okay. Yeah, there is tons of content on your site. Such a good website. Okay. So thank you very much to Lisa Borden and David Newton. Thank you very much, Glenn Sheridan, for your co-hosting. And this has been another episode of Who Do You Think You Are? Thank you to everyone who tuned in, who watched, who listened, and we will be back again soon for another episode. Thanks so much, and bye for now.
Thank you.
This has been an episode of Who Do You Think You Are? An exploration into how our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings create our reality. My name is Lasia Cahoot, and I have been your host. My co-host has been Glenn Sheridan. We'd like to thank the following for helping make this podcast a reality. Today's special guests, Lisa Borden and David Newton. Music, Vasco Lorenco, copyright 123rf.com. Background illustration, Sakma Sterke, copyright 123rf.com. For more information on this podcast and our Lasia Cahoot Soul Excavator, please visit www.lasiacahoot.com. If you like what you've heard, please like, subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. Thanks for tuning into Who Do You Think You Are?